Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Sunday Night Live, your favorite automotive show where we talk about all of those things that affect the customer experience in your stores. And every week we bring on the experts to share with us what they do or what they've done that actually improves business. And I'm very fortunate because I have a great network of colleagues and friends in automotive that forever helped me to expand my knowledge in all things automotive. So this week we have Mr. Reed Richards, a colleague and good friend of mine who is on the forefront of this stuff. He did this stuff way back when the internet first came about and people were saying that, oh, I hate this internet. I hope it goes away soon. Well, guess what? It never went away. And Reed has been honing his skills every step of the way. So, Reed, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Paul, I appreciate you having me on here. I remember actually I met you at the Ted Ings Fixed Roundup Conference in New Jersey.
Yeah. A couple of years ago.
Where I was lucky enough to win one of these.
I have one of those. Yeah.
For best practice, it's one of the technology pieces I was going to talk about tonight.
Awesome. And we've got Peter Smith, first one tuning in, says, looking forward to the show, gentlemen. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in, Peter. So you'll notice that my background is a little bit different than it usually is because I'm spending a bit more time on the road than in the past. So I got this really cool portable green screen. At home in my office, the entire wall is painted green. But on the road, I had this cool green screen that folds up into a neat little package, goes into a bag, and then you pop it open. But unfortunately, when I went to pop it open today, it kind of was all like cagliate. So I was not able to use it. So we're unfortunately going to be staring at the wall behind me in the hotel. But nonetheless, the show is about content, not necessarily about a green screen. And we're going to take you through best practices for setting up a BDC in both sales and service to set up a winning formula. Because it's not just a question of just putting something on the door and saying this is the BDC department. There are many, many steps to that. But before we get started, Reed, why don't you kind of give everybody a little bit of your background in automotive and how you got to this point?
I hate to date myself, but I started in 2000 at a Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, Buick, Pontiac dealership in Missouri Valley called Radigan Motor Center. I learned early that the phone is the best part of the game, especially when you're out in the middle of the corn sticks with nobody coming in, that you had to do something to do, to drive traffic. So I ended up, working on the orphan owner. I sold 25, 30 cars a month there. I ended up moving to a Hyundai, Cadillac, Subaru, Isuzu, Oldsmobile dealership, if that dates you. The nice thing about it is, 2004, I finally, the owner is like, hey, Reed, how much is it going to cost me to run the internet department? I'm like, $5,000. He says, I'll give you $1,000. I said, I'll take it. So for the next 5 years or so, I averaged somewhere close to around 45 cars a month, and a high month of 96 at a single point Hyundai store in Bellevue, Nebraska. From there, I ended up, increasing my opportunities. I tried out the sales manager deal, 2 years, slash BDC director, ran them both. We were district number one in the district for the full 2 years I was running it. I did try it out in third year, did knock it out of the park. Ended up being recruited by Coons Automotive out on the East Coast. They had a Toyota dealership that was ranked 56th in the CAT, which is the Central Atlantic Toyota Network. Within less than 6 months, we ended up ranked 20th in the CAT. So we moved up 36 positions in less than 6 months. That's kind of what I've been doing, right? I've been, just basically, then I ended up running into Proactive Dealer Solutions. I toured for them for over a year, and then it lasted a year. And then right after that, I went independent. I've been in over 57 dealerships since 2015. My favorite thing to do is to come into a dealership, there's so much room for growth because we work in a 90% lost opportunity industry that I can pretty much, with the staff they have, hire a few, add some processes. We could double the sales and increase their customer pay and warranty at least 50% fold, right off the bat. There's just all that minutia. Everybody's running around trying to be busy, not being productive, doing those few crucial tasks that would actually get them there.
Right. Right. They're
So
too busy being busy.
too busy being busy, like Timothy Ferris says. It's a lazy form of thinking.
Yeah, no, I love the whole consulting gig because walking into a store, just ask a few of the right questions, make a few observations, and you have a winning formula a very short time later. It's not rocket science when you've been doing it a long time. There's only a handful of scenarios that play themselves out.
And you know what's crazy, Paul? What I found, the most important thing is if you focus on it, you get more of it. And when you show them that you care, just go out of your way and give them some attention. Ask
Yeah.
them some questions, make them feel important. They're willing to work harder for you.
Yeah. Let me get to a couple of comments. We got Russell B. Hill in the house. Well, hello, gentlemen. Good evening to you. And all the way from Sugarland, Texas, coming to us via YouTube, we've got KDJ. To those that know him as Kenneth Dunner Jr. Savor the flavor of the awesomeness in you, gents, for sharing your delectable nuggets of information, encouragement, inspiration, enthusiasm, guidance, motivation, knowledge. Welcome, Kenny. And Russell B. Hill says, let's go and grow. And our friend Wendy Reeves from Phoenix. Good evening, beautiful people. And then the number one. Russell Hill says, good evening, Wendy. And Mike, the coach Vogel. Hello, Mr. Paul Meyer and Mr. Reed Richards. Excited to hear what you guys will share tonight. All right, with that, let's just jump into it. So before starting anything BDC, the number one thing is to define clear objectives, whether it's sales, service. You don't just jump in. You need to define exactly what the objectives are of that department. All right. So why don't you walk us through some of that, Reed?
Okay. So as far as the objectives go, there's 4 sources of business, Paul. There's the internet lead, right? There's the phone up, right? There's the unsold walk-in traffic call opportunity, and then there's the repeat and referral. And we kind of pretty much put all 4 of those sources into one department. We call it a BDC. So that's the foundation. The next step is, numbers don't lie, people do. So we have this rule of thumb that people make 100 calls a day with the current automotive industry best practice standards of calling twice a day, AM, PM, email, text once a day in that situation, and doing it for 5. Anyway, the contact ratio ends up being somewhere real close to around 30%. So out of the 100 people, you're talking to about 30. The average rep sets somewhere between 6 to 8 appointments, where 3 to 4 show and 1 to 2 buy. So you have to take your numbers, how many leads, how many phone ups you get, and then that's how many reps you need. Okay. Now, as far as like management is concerned, the structure needs to be, because you need to have like a MAD, like a make a deal or a MAD meeting or a save a deal meeting every morning, so you can talk about who you should call from the day before that came in, because if not, you could be calling somebody that has a 420 credit score. Not saying that you couldn't get them bought, but if they'd already been in, you exhausted all your options, you don't want to call them back. They should be actually marked as, well, they shouldn't be marked as lost. You should call them back and see if they found some money down. But eventually,
you need to triage your leads.
Yeah, you do. You need to triage your leads the next morning. So having a lead or a BDM, where somebody that can actually monitor how much tasks are being scheduled for each rep, is important, because there's a lot of cherry picking when it comes to texting and emailing and scrolling up and down. They say that on an 8 hours, you only get 1.5 hours of production.
Wow, so, that's not very much.
No, it isn't. It isn't. So, clearly you've heard before that the speed of the room is the speed of the leader.
Yeah.
So, the BDM needs to be that guy that's not the BDM. He's not in an administrative type situation. He's the guy that's actually taking all the, hey, I got a great idea, please holds when the BDR can't schedule the appointment. The BDM needs to be having his ear on those conversations and taking those calls and grabbing that call and scheduling appointments for his BDRs.
Let me get to a couple of comments here. Hold on one second. We got Scott Gregg tuning in on YouTube. We've got Peter Smith says, couldn't agree more. Show them you care. You will engage with them. 55% lift from engaged employees. And William McCall, West Virginia. Hashtag the William J. Way. Love it. Now, so we want to set measurable goals, right?
Yeah.
Realistic. So how long do you think it takes to properly set up the right amount of people for the department?
So that's the crazy thing is this isn't rocket science. This is keep it simple, sweetie, or keep it simple and systematic. I can take somebody from the street, hand them the frame, sit them down. If they can deliver the message without asking how, why, or what, and just read what's on there and deliver it, they can schedule an appointment 65% of the time. So,
Now,
it's I'm sorry.
Now, what's the importance of experience in this? And I have my feelings on it too.
As far as experience, I think that it creates labels. And I think that experience, I'm thankful for mine, but I did it all wrong for like 15 years. I spent 30, 45 minutes on the phone call trying to, create a customer for life and trying to reinvent myself every time and giving them prices and giving them values and doing all the work for them, and really though I did them a disservice because, we all trade time for money. And the most important thing is that if you drive the vehicle and you don't like it, Paul, you ain't going to buy it anyway.
Right.
So why do all that work ahead of time, spend all that time doing all the work and then getting there and then driving it? And 86% of the time, the customer ends up buying something slightly or completely different than what they thought they were going to buy.
Yeah.
So don't do the customer a disservice. Motivate the customer to come in and drive the vehicle. Don't try to sell them it over the phone.
Right. Your number one function is to get them in.
Yep. Get them in.
Or to schedule the appointment.
Schedule the solid appointment. That's what I'm talking about. A flexible customer. Hey, while I'm checking on that specific vehicle, are you only looking for that, or would you consider something similar with a little bit of miles on it if I can save you some money? You got to have a reason and benefit in the statement for them to want to consider.
But people only know what they know, based on experience, until they hear something different that might be appealing to them. It's good to have options like that because you never make assumptions that everybody knows what we know, because they don't. Right? You present options to them, and sometimes they're like, wow, I hadn't considered that before. Yeah, let's talk about that. Now, I got a couple of comments here. Mike Vogel says a BDC can be invaluable to fixed ops as long as they're provided with the tools to assist every customer. Spot on. Steve Chester says, got him in. I love this guy. You know Steve, right? Do you know Steve? Or?
Yes, I've had plenty of conversations on the phone with Steve.
Okay, so he was just pulling my leg before when he says, who is this Reed Richards guy? He knows exactly who you are.
He was joshing you.
Mike Vogel says schedules, op codes, service, and labor price guides are so important for a service BDC, which brings us into kind of the next part of this. So the first step is define clear objectives. Now the second part is to hire and train the right staff.
Paul, again, like I said, as it starts is as it goes. When you hire the people that had the previous experience and the previous training of the person that won't sit there and role play with you, that says they've been the BDD of this big, huge auto group for the last 10 years, I'm thinking, yeah, you came from the wrong place, because most people, they get comforted, because comfort zones, and so I think that hiring somebody that's never had any experience is the best. And as far as the
It's good
training
and bad.
goes, that's important. But I think, huh?
Well,
It's
it could
good.
go either
Yeah.
way, right? When you
I've
bring in
I've
somebody,
found our most successful projects, Paul, have always been the day we get hired is the day they start. If we come in and try to rehab the situation, it's a lot more difficult, because then you have to create the buy-in, you have to
yeah,
get the enrollment, and then you have to coach them to change their behaviors.
right.
Instead of
Baggage,
train then coach, you have a whole nother, $5,000 a day times this many days of behavior change, when you could have just started it that way. Now, I'm not
right.
saying that it doesn't work, but I prefer to come in and deal with somebody that doesn't want to push back.
I think if you find the right people in, hospitality is a perfect vertical, because those people have that whole customer experience down to a science. And I'm not the one that came up with this, but hire for attitude and then train for the skill, right? Start
Exactly.
with a clean slate.
Yes. I agree with you.
Scott Gregg says, so true, Mike Vogel. If you don't set them up for success and empower them to get the job done, they do you no good.
And
So
I don't know. Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
Well, as far as the training, the BDM needs to be trained in an observational coaching manner. The reps on the inbound, they need to be coaching the inbound calls, the inbound sales calls, and the internet lead handling. Those are the two most important skill sets, because, once you learn the inbound, you can do the outbound, and everything that you take on the call and say on the call is the same thing that you're going to say on the text and email, because really all it is trying to do is motivate them to be flexible and to create professional urgency, so that they come in now and show up on time and buy.
Right. Now, the things you train them on are process, you train them on phone etiquette, sales techniques, and word tracks. Word tracks are big, but word tracks not in a let me read it from the script kind of way, but word tracks that give them the basic understanding of what the role is. And then it's very important for them to make it their own, right? To make it conversational,
Well,
it's
I
got to
don't
come from
know. I do believe, Paul, that, when I would go get heart surgery, I want somebody that's, crafted in that skill set. I don't want to go to a general practitioner. So there is actually a craft to scheduling a solid appointment, one that shows and buys, that's flexible when they show up and expectations are met properly, that you do actually, word for word, follow the frame, as
Yeah,
if you were to go and want to become a movie star for a movie and I was the director. I would expect you to follow the script, as I would if you were the pilot to my airplane. I would expect you to fly the plane the exact way that you learned how to fly it. I hope you're not trying to be genuine and unique in some maneuver situations while I'm on the plane. So I prefer that when you change the words, you will change the meaning, which impact will have a huge impact on whether or not the person says yes or no, especially if you're asking yes or no questions, which we don't. What's the best number to
right,
reach you at, Paul? Your homework or your cell? I don't ask you if I can have your phone number,
right.
if that makes sense. So no, I do believe that, yeah, you can make it your own. Again, no problem, Paul. I'd be happy to assist you with that. But before I do, let me ask you this. How familiar are you with the current market situation?
Yeah,
Tell
when
me
I say
about
make it your own,
it.
I mean they need to know it, not necessarily change all the words. Because you're right, words have
Thank
meanings.
Yes. I do. There is a craft, and if you can learn it, and learn the craft well enough that you don't have to, read from a script so you don't sound like you're reading from a script.
Right.
Yes, it's highly beneficial.
Yeah, you need to know it inside out, sideways, and backwards. Now,
Yep.
now let's talk about pay, right? Pay is important. And regardless of how people package this, the bottom line is in automotive and probably most businesses, we get paid a percentage of what the profit is, right? You may say, oh, these are salaried employees. That's all well and good. But if the salaries employees don't bring in the business, then guess what? It's going to be a lower salary, right? So I'm a big one for performance-based pay plans. What are some best practices around pay plans that you've seen out there and in various stores?
So, there's the general set, show, and sold, pay them on the set, show, and sold. Now, personally, I think that if you pay them on the sold, you drive a sales aspect into the situation, which creates a salesperson. And when you go to the grocery store, you don't go there to look at milk, you go there to buy it. Same situation. You come to the car dealership to buy a car, not to look at it, especially when it's one of the most aggravating experiences you can put yourself through. They're not showing up because they want to look, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. The deal is theirs to lose.
Yeah. I mean,
that puts an interesting
what
spin
did
on
you
it, though, because you don't want to turn them into salespeople. They need to focus on bringing them in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like
pay. Not only that, but we also set up. I apologize, Paul. I forgot you're talking about activity-based pay plans. No, actually, you were talking about pay plans, but the activity-based pay plan I found is highly beneficial when you want to drive the activities that you want to drive. Instead of the set and show, it's set off of how much time they spend on the active predictive dialer, or how many times they've sent text message, or what their quality score is on their inbound sales call, or how they handle an internet lead. And if they top performance, they get bonus based off of whether or not they answered the call the right way, or whether they handled the lead the right way, versus whether or not they set the appointment, or whether it showed or not.
Now that's a
So
good point. We're
I
gonna
like
jump
both.
into the technology piece in just a second, but just to follow up on the you get paid for show appointments, shows, all that, and that could be a double-edged sword also, because I've seen certain, shall not name them, but I've seen certain BDC departments. They're strong on getting people in. However, it wasn't necessarily set up the right way. And what I mean by that is in a different capacity. Let's say you follow up on the lead. The BDC had made a bunch of outgoing phone calls, got some quote unquote tangible leads. You follow up on the leads, like, what are you talking about? I never said that. No, I was just asking a particular question. I didn't say I was interested. Have you ever seen any of that pan out?
Well, so I'm a big, huge believer in CarMax. I don't know if you're familiar with the way that they do business, but they sell double the amount of cars than their closest competitor, in with half the locations. Do you know why, Paul, and how they do that?
Because they're great on the phone and with the internet.
Well, they actually have a sweeter, softer side to them. Actually, they don't try to sell you anything. They try to buy your car from you. So what they do is they use the art of selling, which is switching. So they go after the purchase, which is the is there's no pressure there to come in, bring your car and get it professionally appraised. And hey, then they eliminate the number one rejector, which is limited vehicle availability, with this big, huge sea of cars. So while you're getting your vehicle professionally appraised, they show you all these cars. And guess what? I guarantee you, you're selling your car. You're probably going to replace it with something else. Hey, why not look at these? Why not now? And why not take one home? right?
Yeah.
And they have the highest PRU. So my big thing is no problem, Paul. I'd be happy to assist you with that. But before I do, let me ask you this: how familiar are you with the current market situation? Yeah, right. I know, isn't that crazy? My car I bought in 21 was worth, the MSRP was 56 grand. I have 36,000 miles on it. It's 2023 and it's worth 62. That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, if I could do something crazy and get you 1,500 up to 3 grand over normal market value for your vehicle, would you consider exchanging? Paul, I probably froze you because I know you're just thinking, yes, right now.
Yeah, no,
I think we got Paul on.
it's knowing what to say and saying it properly. Absolutely. Mike Vogel says service managers should also be coaching of their BDC reps to build a bullpen for future service advisors. Now, talk about service and BDC. I want to play a short video. I had the honor of meeting with Ruben Eurostein in Aruba. They are, I believe it's Mercedes, Ford, and I think it was Mitsubishi is the other brand they carry. And they're big proponents of the BDC, and they involve them right from the start. Let's go to the videotape.
Once the vehicle is sold, we make the customers first. The salesperson makes the customers first appointment. They introduce them to service. They introduce them to the BDC, and the BDC makes.
They introduce them to the BDC.
Yeah, because the BDC we have in front in the front counter. When you walk in, the lady sitting there. As you've seen the video, she is now right there calling customers and making appointments and answering phone calls. And so introduce them to them, explain the concept of BDC. And so the customer already knows that, hey, if you call an advisor, it's probably going to be too busy to give you an appointment. So the BDC makes the appointment, so the BDC, and we send emails informing them how the process works. So once they come in, it's the first day we give them extra attention to make sure that they know, okay, this is where the service drives work. What can you expect today?
You lay it all out for them in advance.
In advance, yeah, exactly.
See, that's setting the expectation, right? I mean, talk about working the BDC properly. The customer is introduced to them at the sales to service handoff, and it's explained to them why. Your service advisor is busy getting the cars through the shop. This is your point of contact. This is who will be scheduling with you. And this person will be following up with you. They tell them specifically, we're going to call you at this time, and this time, which eliminates one of the biggest annoyances in the store, which is status update incoming calls, right? How many customers call in? How's my car doing? When's my car going to be in the shop? When's my car going to be ready? Now, Steve Chesson says, CarMax also offers a nationwide warranty.
Inventory,
which is brilliant.
But doesn't all dealerships offer a nationwide inventory? You can find their website online. Anybody can buy a car from them anywhere in the nation. So really, we're all nationwide.
Well, I think what he's talking about is their ability to shift cars between stores.
So is AutoNation. So does AutoNation. They have double the rooftops than CarMax. I mean, that doesn't mean anything. They sell half the inventory. I don't understand what he means by that.
I think it's the shifting cars back and forth. They seem to do a very good job with that.
They do, but I don't think it's because I think it's because they understand, like Amazon. You don't go there to look for product. You go there to buy it. They're not trying to be pressured. They just want to spend their money. CarMax lets you spend their money there. Where dealerships, when you come in, they got 20 dudes down on the stoop. They're all waiting for the BDC's appointments because none of the reps do any outbound prospecting anymore because the BDC schedules all the appointments. So they're out there intimidating the customer when they walk in. They never introduce them to the manager. They never do the reverse TO. The expectation isn't met, and they wonder why they're closing at 40%.
Yeah. I had the pleasure of Martha Alvarado, right?
Yeah, I've heard of her.
I walked into her store and I actually saw salespeople on the phone. It blew me away.
Yeah.
They have a specific area, and they were making phone calls. Peter Smith says Steve Chesson and CarMax pay plan is not performance-based, but customer experience-based.
I like it. I'd like to see that pay plan if anybody has it.
If anybody has that, kindly forward it on. We'd love to see it. But that's really every metric flows from that. If it's a great experience, it will then fulfill all the customer's needs. It's not rocket science. Steve Chesson says big selection is a huge plus. So let's talk about some of the technology. All right. CRM is key, obviously. There's several on the market, but being trained on the CRM and setting up a specific follow-up cadence.
Paul, I do believe that let me ask everybody here. Does anyone know, when the phone was invented? What year? If anybody wants to throw that out in the comments, just guessing off the tip of their tongue. All right. Well, I'm not going to keep everybody in suspense. It was 1876. It's currently 2023. So where I come from Omaha, Nebraska. We're the telemarketing capital of the country because supposedly we don't have accents. I started in the telemarketing industry when I was 14 years old, and I don't think I ever used a phone in my entire life to make contact with customers, especially with somebody that wants to purchase a product from them. My reps, they don't call 100 people and task out and cherry pick and scroll up and down. They use technology, which is telephone technology, that allows you to make and talk to somewhere close to around 60 to 70 people. That was what that best practice award was that I went out at Ted Ings is, we use the technology telemarketing companies. I mean, just because it says it's telemarketing does not mean that it's bad. I mean, it's the same thing as picking up the phone and dialing away and spending 42 minutes on the dial and the ring and the voicemail and only 18 minutes worth of talk, or having 42 minutes worth of talk and only 18 minutes worth of dial. Well, there's technology that can increase your opportunity. And I have no problem sharing that with anyone because we do have multiple dealerships using it and very successful with it. As far as the CRM goes, I mean, really the base of it is maybe to use for video introduction and possibly a video, like visual mental drive to the dealership and putting a name with the face so they know who to see when they come in. Yeah. But really, I find CRMs to be really annotated and on a date, especially with like, say, VIN solutions, for example. It takes 26 clicks to get from one customer to the next after you mark 26. Everything. 26. And another thing is crazy. I'm sorry to throw this out there, but none of the CRMs out there have an inbound sales call tracking a report. I mean, I have to have one custom made at every dealer that uses VIN solutions, every dealer that uses DriveCentric. It can't tell me who's taking them, how many they take, how many they set, how many showed, and how many bought. It's crazy. And they can't even develop a custom one enough to set. Anyway, so CRMs for me, I don't need one with the technology that I use. It pretty much tells me who the customer's name is, what they're looking for. All I have to do is ask them if they've had an opportunity to stop by for our buyback event and then schedule an appointment. I mean, the CRM, again, is definitely helpful to, because you can't rely on yesterday's wins to fill today's sales. So it's great to be able to, plan for your future. I mean, for that matter, I think for organization purposes, you could use a CRM, but I think they're really expensive. And honestly, I think there's a better way.
So then how do you have visibility to not lose any? So nothing falls through the cracks.
Well, all I know is if you go to Vin Solutions and you go to active leads with no future activity, in any dealership, I've always noticed there's somewhere around 1,000 to 1,200. You know, there's a lot of people, sometimes even more, and these are active leads with no.
Oh, you just froze.
Sorry, did I?
Yeah, you're back now.
I'm still here. You scrolled out too. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do think that the organizational, so other people can see what conversation and where they are and in the process. Yes, okay, fine. CRM or an ILM or whatever you want to call it might be important to have just to keep organized.
So we're talking about then what you're talking about is the call tracking logs.
Yeah, I mean,
using that.
Yeah, proactive dealer solutions actually has one of the best things in the world. It's called the tracker. And it's a live active situation that shows you how many calls that the rep made, how many people they contacted, how many they set appointments for. I mean, it's live. It's like right now. You know, where most CRMs, they don't really track contact ratio. And it's like, you know, like how many they contacted. But that's the most important part. Who cares how many calls they made, how many text messages they sent, and how many emails they sent? It's how many people did they talk to, and how come they didn't TO it to the BDM?
And then notes when it comes to scripting, right? That's important. So you set up in advance all the scripts for sales and for service?
Yes, both sides, both sales and service. Again, you know, there's the 4 sources of business, and there are the priority of, you know, there's the priority. I mean, when it comes to service, let's say you have appointment confirmations, missed appointment confirmations. You know, you go after the lowest hanging fruit first. You want to make sure that you're not running after somebody that's never serviced with you first, if that makes sense. The priority of calling is definitely important. Recalls, special order parts, you know, the inactive customer is one of my favorite, the 12-month and over, you know, because then that's where you can find your lost opportunity, is where they ended up going to Jiffy Lube or whatever they went, and to wherever they went, and then you get an opportunity to get them to come back to the dealership. So yeah,
7
sales.
in 10 leave.
I know, isn't that crazy? 70% leave after 30,000 miles, Paul.
Yeah,
that's a huge gap.
That's a huge gap.
Yeah,
it's not set up properly to begin with. It's the retention tool isn't dialed in.
Well, no one schedules their first service appointment for them,
and that makes a huge difference also. And then there's the appointment confirmation. Some stores, they send out one email, which oftentimes goes into spam. And when the customer doesn't show up at the end of the day, they get another email when it's too late to be able to reschedule something.
Yeah, and they just took out time out of your shop off of your board, and then tied up a text time that didn't allow you to schedule another appointment that could have showed up, that probably might needed a transmission flush.
So the training is continual, and reviewing the performance is continual.
Correct.
Right? Is that something we do daily, or is that something we do weekly?
Well, do you think you can go to the gym once a week and be buff at the end of the year? Or do you think you'd be a lot more buff if you went every day? So I think that consistency comes with an everyday approach. I think accountability needs to be there every day. In the difference between, you know, pushing and coaching is that, you know, it's their agenda. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to create the behavior. We'll help them create the behavior. That way, if they build it, they'll own it. If they own it, they'll act on it. You know, and if you push, you just get pushed back the whole time anyway. I mean, you're going to just continue pushing and pushing and pushing. Trust me, these wrinkles didn't come from not pushing part of my life, you know. And I found that, you know, through allowing them to, you know, have where they build it and they own it and they act on it type situation, you know, through a coaching, through an observational coaching. So it's like, what did you do good?
Right.
Where were your opportunities at? What are you going to stop doing? What are you going to start doing? And how can I support you? And again, what are you going to continue doing that you did well? You know, and creating action plans on a daily instead of a weekly or a monthly or never. I think the daily is definitely the way to go, Paul.
And also interdepartment, right? Have conversations interdepartment between the sales department in the BDC and the service department in the BDC, so everybody's on the same page. And what I saw in Martha's store is they have monitors where the BDC reps are able to have visibility into how busy the advisors are, how busy the drive is. So she was telling me that there's an incoming phone call, customer wants to come in, is now a good time to pop in for something. They look at the screen, they see the cars are backed out to the street and beyond, right? Do a lot of stores have that, or is that a minority of the stores, that kind of visibility?
Well, you know what? I think that's a distraction. I think that the BDC shouldn't be handling and then I hate to say should because I hate to shit on myself. But the point is that they don't need to take status callback calls. See, what happens is, you know, do you want 2,000 customer pay warranties through your service department, or do you want 3,000 customer pay warranties through your service department? The problem is if you allow your BDC to be the operator and handle status callbacks, 72% of their calls, 72% of their calls.
I'm not talking about status callback. I'm talking about somebody calling in, wants to come in, and they have visibility. They see now is probably not the best time. There's no sense setting them up for failure.
Well, what I was going with is that, yes, no, we eliminate the distractions. No problem. You're calling in. We schedule the appointment. You know what I mean? We don't want them looking up. We don't look at them looking over. We want them to schedule an appointment. If it's blue on X time, then schedule the appointment. We're not worried about whether they're not the dispatcher. How are they going to know whether or not, you know, that technician or what those cars are doing in the lane or drive, or, you know what I mean? They're there to schedule appointments, not be the dispatcher.
Different perspective.
Yeah. And
Peter Smith says 70% leave after purchase, 85% of service customers are transient. I've not seen the 85% metric before, but he's pretty much on the ball when it comes to looking up the data, so I'm sure that's correct.
I could see what transient meaning, that if you created a reason and benefit in the customer's mind to come to see you instead of the other person, that they would come see you. Because most say yes to me. And all I do is ask them, hey, when was the last time you had your recommended maintenance is done? Oh, we haven't? Great. So if I gave you, you know, 10% off of a fully synthetic oil change, would that work for you? Yeah, great. So does right now or later today work best? I mean, you know, if you just create a little reason and benefit in the mind of the customer, it seems to work, especially if they need it.
And now the follow-up process as well. That's all part of the initial setup, and that's monitored as we go, as need, you know, as changes need to be made.
Yeah, you know, the follow-up process is like, you know, you have your 5-day uncontacted, you have your extended uncontacted, you have your no phone, email only. You know what I mean? So yeah, you do have those structured task me out situations, but really though, you only come to the dealership to do two things. It's either to buy a car or service a car, right? So if they're an
Buy,
active
service, or sell.
or sell, you're right. And so if you're an active lead and you're either a service or a sales, you're active lead and that means we need to schedule you an appointment. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So follow up, you have now legality, and I know you added that in there. You have a 90-day unsolicited law type situation. So if you submit lead, you have 90 days you can follow up with them without recourse. Now,
right.
This is the kicker that nobody knows, and everybody does it across the country, is that if you're calling your service customers, yes, your service customers, and it leads to a receipt and they haven't try to contact you within 90 days, you are soliciting if it leads to a receipt.
Wait, say that again?
Yeah, right. So should you call your 12-month inactive customers? If it leads to a receipt, it'd be considered solicitation.
Interesting.
Right. Now, the plus side is, everybody does, nobody says anything about it. I've been doing it for so long, and don't get me wrong. I don't know how fine-tuned, but I know that we're starting to get a little bit more lax on the laws now due to the fact is that you can outsource that overseas and they have no laws. They can send text message to your cell phone. I thought there was a law against that. I thought, cell phones were illegal to call, right? I mean, so, they're starting to relax a little bit because they definitely really tuned out America's interior telemarketing facilities. And we lost a lot of jobs internally because, they put all these strict laws about when you can call and when you can't.
All right. Peter clarified. He says transient, meaning that our service departments are filled with customers from other dealers. Got it. Given the purchase experience / availability. So Peter, are you saying 85% are from other dealers? I don't necessarily buy that. I think it's more like 50% of the customers that are in this store are from other dealers.
I think he was saying that, yeah, it's, we do have a lot of customers from other dealers. Since the 70% leave after 30,000 miles, where are they going to go?
Right.
That's 70% right there. So if you're retaining 15, you're at 85. You got 15% of yours and 65% or 60%, whatever, of everybody else's.
Interesting.
I mean, if you have a 70-30, right, you're pretty darn close.
Okay. I can see that. And now customer service training also is it's not just how to use the particular tool, but it's also customer service training, right? How to speak with the customer, phone etiquette, listening skills, things like that. How much time is spent on that piece of the training?
That's key. I mean, think about it. It's what's being said, right?
That's the most important part, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But you still need the mechanics.
Thank you for calling Paul Myers, Chrysler Dodge Jeep. This is Reed. How may I assist you? I mean, I am sorry, but your posture is important. It gets down to that for me. It's timing the call. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You can look it up. It's the call contact. It's done by Yahoo and Polk, and it tells you when the best times of calling are. It's between 8 and 10 and 4 and 6. The best days of contact are Wednesdays and Thursdays, and it tells you. I mean, I like to be as targeted and crafted as possible, so that way I can take a dealership from selling 400 cars to selling 600 cars in 30 days. Because they have the leads, they have all they need to do is it's the activity.
Right.
It's all in the activity. It's how much you're putting in, because what you put in is what you get out.
And I agree with you regarding the posture, because 55% of communication is body language, right? So when they're not in front of you, you need to be more than dialed in on your phone skills and posture, enthusiasm, a smile. The smile is probably one of the only things that translates across the phone. If somebody's perky, they're sitting up, they're smiling, they're enthusiastic, the person on the other end of the phone can pick that up easily. But you're right. Then that goes the other way.
It does. Energy can definitely be heard.
One piece that I venture to say a lot of dealers don't think about. So if your BDC department is your well-oiled machine that handles the incoming leads, and whether it be internet leads or phone leads, now we need to take it one step further if we want to increase our business. And that take it one step further, that's how do we drive more traffic to that BDC so they can do their job, right? And I got an interesting phone call from a buddy of mine the other day asking my opinion on, here, let's look at this particular store's numbers because they're not achieving the types of objectives that they'd like to achieve. Okay. They're getting minimal coming into the store as far as leads are concerned, which was crazy. But after looking into it for a little bit, come to find out the Facebook strategy, there was no Facebook strategy because in my opinion, the people were not able to work those leads. So if they're not able to, rather than get training on working those leads, they just dismissed them. They said, yeah, those leads are no good. We want the Glengarry leads. Yeah. We don't want the Facebook leads. When in reality, if you work your Google Places page and you work your social media and you build your community, then you will drive more traffic to your store, whether it be via the website or direct leads coming into the store from email or phone calls. But a lot of stores don't focus in on that piece. I can't tell you how many stores I look at, and the stores that have been in business 10, 15 years, but yet you look at their social media and it's crickets. It's non-existent. And that's one of the best free sources of traffic. I'd love your input on that.
Well, we buy a lot of cars off the marketplace, if that says anything. I think you kind of froze there, Paul.
Yeah, it takes turns freezing.
People spend a lot of time online. Oh, yeah, we buy a lot of cars off of Facebook, if that says anything. Marketplace.
I'm a big believer in it because I know it works for us.
Well, yeah, I mean, technology is all it's the knowledge revolution. It's the information age. You know, currently right now, we just developed an IVR script. So there's a 65% set appointment, right? When they call in, 35% fail where that you need a TO situation, that they won't just give you their name and number and set an appointment. Well, I have it set up to where we can make the outbound call on the internet lead and do the same thing, and it be a press 1, press 2 situation funnel, that if they can't just schedule an appointment, which happens, that if it fails, it says, I've got a great idea, and it transfers for a live agent. So basically a live agent can now be 3 people instead of 1 and schedule 3 appointments at one time instead of 1. So if you're not, familiar with the new technology like the AI, we have AI to handle our status callback. We have AI to help with the customers that raise their hand, with the customer that raised their hands twice. We have AI to communicate after hours. I mean, if you're not, enhancing your opportunity by artificial intelligence and technology, like you're still using the telephone from 1876. I mean, come on, and you're still selling cars like we were 100 years ago, then you need to kind of step up, or you know what, you might get stepped on, you might get bought out, you might want to get bought out. You know what, you might be fine with the 10% income that you're making off of the opportunity, because a lot of dealerships make a lot of money, whether or not they want to grow or not. They're the one car dealership that, the manufacturer says, this is how many cars you're going to sell in your market. They give them that many, and that's what they're going to get. I mean, people do business with them because they're the manufacturer, whether they sometimes want to or not. So they make enough money that they don't really have to do more if they don't want to. So I guess, but they wouldn't be here if they didn't want to grow, right?
Right. Peter said, let me bring this on the screen, says, I did a social media study on BMW, GM, and Toyota for a major metro center, and 68% of the dealers failed on 32 different metrics against their peers. I totally believe that.
So there's a lot of growth. There's a lot of growth opportunity. See, I see that as a winning that's a great opportunity for all those dealerships to be, that's the problem, is rules of engagement. We don't bring in the blind spots into their arena the right way because we never asked the rules of engagement with that person. So we have to get to know them. We have to know where the mile starts and where it ends, because you can't read the label from the inside of the bottle. And people, again, the ego goes to your head. And then,
wait a minute.
you make it a whole
Wait a
bunch
minute. Wait a minute. Wait. Are you suggesting there's ego in the car business? Is that what I just heard?
Yeah, well, there's ego everywhere. And let me tell you, I declare war on myself every day. I really do. Through humility is where your real true growth comes from.
Yeah.
Being genuine and authentic and caring, that's when people start to see that you care, and then they care what you know. I'm high on E because I've been in the car business for 26 years and I think I know everything, but I don't. Because really the person sitting there is a lot closer to the situation than I am, and their ideas 90% of the time are better than mine. And I create an independent, mentally strong employee, one that doesn't rob me of all my time and keep me from doing the things that I want to do, because they constantly, every time they have a question, they have to come back and ask me because I didn't empower them.
Yeah. And let me tell you something. I'm in it 44 years and I don't have all the answers. I'm still learning every day.
No.
Every day. From people like you.
Agreeing you're growing.
All the other great colleagues I have in this business.
Well, I look up to you too, Paul.
You know what's interesting about the social media piece is that if you look at 100 stores, I'd say most of them are not utilizing it or not utilizing it properly. And every one of them will, at the drop of a dime, be able to give you every excuse why they're not doing it, why they're not creating video content, while at the same time, all of their people are on social media. I think they haven't sold them what's in it for them.
That you say that is that if you had 220 employees and you were tilting on a 4.6 and a 4.8, why wouldn't you have those 220 employees put up a 5-star review on your company page or on your Facebook? Sorry, the cat's making noise.
Oh, I miss my cat when I'm on the road. I mean, I miss the whole family, but that cat and I we're really like this.
Well, I have ragdolls. If you're familiar with what a ragdoll is, they're called the puppy cat. So
no, I don't know. I'm not familiar with that one.
They actually act like dogs. And
what's
my dogs are.
What's the big cat? Is that Mancoon?
Oh, that's the Mancoon, yes. And my dogs are Akitas, and Akitas act like cats. So I got dogs that act like cats and cats that act like dogs.
Oh, man. Mm-hmm. The dog formerly known as the cat.
Yeah, right. I just, remember, no one knows, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And I do it all the time with people. I put my hand up to their hand and I push. And you know what they do? They push back.
Right.
Yeah, every time. If you don't know, what I want for you, Paul, is I want you to be very successful. It's crazy. When I do a GPS with each and every client, I've done a ton of them. The one question I ask, hey, how do you like to be rewarded and acknowledged for a job well done? I get people tear up over that one. They're like, I've never been asked that. I talk to all kinds of people. It's like, man, where's the care at? These people are working hard for you. They come to work, they sacrifice their time, energy, they leave their houses. They deserve to be trained. I mean, they deserve to have some leadership development, and if you can't provide them for it, you need to hire a company that can.
You want to know something? As much as I've learned about hiring and retention, I have never heard anybody put it exactly that way. Please repeat that one more time.
Are you talking about? As far as like people, how do you like to be rewarded or acknowledged for a job well done? Yeah, it's one of the questions that we need to know as a leader with the people that are on their team. We need to help them achieve their goals, because a leader's natural position is a transparent one. It's about positioning other people in their position and helping them and assisting them to win. That's when we really
Reed,
truly win, Paul.
let me tell you something. That, in my opinion, is the number one nugget that dropped here tonight. That
Good,
one
Paul. I'm
piece
glad
right
I got
there.
it out there.
We got a
Before
lot
it
of stuff out
ticked me
there,
off.
but that one, like, wow. Everybody's got issues with hiring and retention. And that one piece there is a huge, huge differentiator. And you're right. Nobody has ever asked me that in all my years in the car business. Nobody.
I know nobody ever asked me either.
Wow. That's huge.
Well, I mean, until, 17 years later down the road when I first started in the car business. Apologize about the beeping.
Well, another hour has come to pass. Actually, a little over an hour. So I want to thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Paul.
Stay on. Well, as we log off, just stay on for a couple minutes. To those watching live, thank you very much for supporting the show. To those watching on the replay, thank you. There are a lot of people that watch on the replay.
There you go. You're frozen there for a second.
But not the audio, right?
I didn't hear anything. I apologize.
To those watching, whether it's live or on the replay, thank you very much. I appreciate the support. I think we're in the third or fourth year, something like that. Tend to lose track when you do too many things at the same time. So thank you. If you have anybody that you think would benefit from tonight's performance, please share it with them.
I appreciate everybody showing up, people.
And if you're not connected with Reed or myself,
and don't forget that CarMax pay plan.
And yes, definitely. If somebody has a CarMax pay plan, please send it this way. I wish you all a safe and successful next week, and we'll see you next week on Sunday Night Live. Reed, don't go away.